Hey there guys, today we're taking a look at We Happy Few running on the AMD Ryzen 5 5500U. Now you're looking at the game currently running with the lowest in-game graphic settings, except the textures are set to high, and we are running the system with the stock 15-watt TDP, and it is paired with 16 gigabytes of RAM. Now the level of performance that we're getting out here in the open world is nothing incredible. We're looking at 1% lows that are in the mid-20s, and our averages are only slightly above 30 FPS. It's a playable enough experience. There isn't much fluctuation between the 1% lows and the averages, so it's not like this is an inconsistent or a bad experience by any means. It's just not ideal. Now of course this is at the full 1080p resolution, and the game is old enough that it doesn't have anything like FSR or anything like that, so we're just running this at the raw 1080p resolution, and it really seems like it is just way too much for this to run at just the stock 15-watt TDP. We can of course raise the TDP using the AMD APU tuning utility, which I always link down below in the description of the videos, and using that to bump up the TDP up to 25 watts at the full 1080p resolution doesn't really net us any gain whatsoever. We're still looking at around a 30 FPS average with 1% lows in the mid 20s. There really is no noticeable gain. One thing to note is that in interior areas in this game, while you're using pretty much any setting, you're looking at more like a 40 to 50 FPS average. It's just in the open world where you're looking at just having that 30 FPS average most of the time. So that is something to keep in mind. It does mean that in a lot of areas you're going to have a much better experience, but if you're doing anything in the outside areas, just expect it to be kind of inconsistent. It's still decent enough, and I think if you're someone that's just used to playing games on an APU system anyway, this is going to be well within a range where it is acceptable for you. Of course, we can actually lower the in-game render resolution because the game actually has a render scaling setting in it. So if we drop things down to 900p, at the stock 15-watt TDP, we do see a noticeable gain, though not anything substantial. Our averages are now closer to a 40 FPS average, but our 1% lows didn't really see that big of a gain. So overall, the gaming experience isn't really that different from where we were at the full 1080p resolution. The average increase is a little nice, but the fact that our 1% lows saw pretty much no gains whatsoever pretty much goes to show that the overall gaming experience isn't really going to actually feel that different. Now at the 25-watt TDP, we do get a nice little bump in terms of the overall performance. It's nothing substantial, but it is at least a little bit nicer. We are looking around a 45 FPS average with 1% lows just slightly below 30. This is pretty much one of the most ideal scenarios that you can have with just the 900p resolution, and it seems to be the sweet spot to actually be able to play. And when you are actually in interior areas, you're looking at closer to a 60 FPS average. And just out of sheer curiosity, I wanted to see if there was any possible way of getting a 60 FPS average in the exterior area, or if we could get those 1% lows to at least get closer to a 30 FPS average or even above that. So what you're looking at, the game is running right now at 720p with a full 30-watt TDP running on the chip. Now you look at those temperatures and they're getting pretty high up there, but the chip is actually set to not throttle until it reaches the temperature of 95 degrees. So what's mostly happening here, as you can tell by the fact that the GPU is actually not even being fully utilized here, is we're actually CPU limited here. If this CPU had more IPC, we might actually see a bump in performance, but at this low of a resolution, it pretty much all comes down to the CPU. And unfortunately, while our 1% lows are now at a 30 FPS range, our averages really, at least in the exterior areas, are again not seeing that huge of a jump. Again, interior areas are going to be pretty much anywhere between 50 to above 60 FPS, just depending on the exact interior location that you're at. But if you're looking to do anything in the open world, no matter what settings you go with, you're really going to struggle to get anything above the 40 FPS range. Still more than playable in most settings, and really I found that the sweet spot was just going with 900p, especially if you're stuck at the 15-watt TDP. I would definitely just stick with 900p. But overall, the game felt playable enough, and it's definitely a game that you could enjoy playing on here. It's not a horrible experience or anything like that. Just temper your expectations and kind of know what you're getting yourself into here. But I hope you found this video useful or interesting. If you did, be sure to subscribe. We're going to be taking a look at way more games running on this specific chip itself, as well as taking a look at some other chips. Now, of course, there is holiday sales happening all over the place for games. So if there are any games that you would would like to see tested, let me know down below. I might be able to pick it up and actually do some testing. Anything that you've been curious about seeing how it runs on this specific chip, let me know down below, and I will see you guys in the next one.